Judges have now heard both sides of the case in the application brought by the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association against government's decision to ban the sale of tobacco during the lockdown. It's been heard in the High Court in Pretoria today. Lawyers for Fita argue that the rise in the sales of illegal cigarettes only affects the most vulnerable in society. They've also argued that tobacco withdrawal is a valid, diagnosable condition. The prohibition's been in place since the 26th of March. Lawyers for government say that the ban was necessary to reduce the burden on the health system during the time of the coronavirus. Our senior political reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo was in court today. She's been going through the papers as well through the last week. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. Okay, two different sides. So let's start with tobacco. They're making the application. What are they saying?
Well, several arguments coming from Fita this morning. The first is that, of course, the continued ban is leading to an increase in illicit, tobacco trading. But also, they were arguing that the fact that government is actually, expected smokers to go cold turkey. Actually, senior counsel Cyril described it as an act of cruelty, and saying that, in fact, withdrawals rather from tobacco is actually a diagnosable medical condition, and so that the government actually has no evidence to actually back up the logic and the rationale behind its ban. And also, an interesting point that was brought up by the counsel for Fita is the fact that the president didn't sign or depose an affidavit, and they're saying that this is important to raise because it's the president who's been making pronouncements regarding the ban and, of course, that U-turn. And they're saying that since he's the one who's also at the face of this particular pandemic, they would have wanted to hear his rationale and where and which empirical evidence has been used to back up the continued ban on the sale of cigarettes. Another issue that was raised as well is this report that the Cooperative Governance Minister attached to her papers, which is a World Health Organization paper on COVID-19 and its implications on smokers. And they're saying that even the World Health Organization itself has actually, cautioned the media and civil society against, using this kind of research because they're constantly evaluating. And of course, COVID-19 is new, so they're constantly updating it. And Fita is saying there cannot be any rational decisions that have far-reaching implications made on the basis of research that is continuously evolving.
And then government advocate Maruma Morane, working for government, representing government, what's he had to say?
Well, basically, he's started off by discussing the word necessary because it actually came up during the arguments today on whether or not the actions taken by COGTA Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma have been necessary and how necessary they are, so the extent of the necessity. He also then went on to say that because it is a pandemic, that she had to move swiftly and that we didn't have the luxury of time of inquiries to ponder, and that the decisions that she had to make needed to be of a matter of urgency. And in fact, in certain instances, she didn't have to consult, but because of the nature of the way this government has treated the pandemic, she has. And in that the Disaster Management Act has given her the powers to behave in the manner that she has, i.e. banning the sale of cigarettes.